You're watching Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino.
Welcome back to Picks on Politics, everybody. So let's talk New Jersey now, where the race for governor is pretty much a virtual tie. Picks up its polling with Emerson College showing a single percentage point separates Democrat Mikie Sherrill, Republican Jack Ciattarelli. Just 2% of voters there remain undecided. And when those few undecided voters were pushed to choose a candidate, those votes split between the two candidates, with Mikie Sherrill winning by 2 points. Let's get right to our panel now. Senior political reporter Henry Rossoff is back with us, along with New Jersey reporter Jim Vassell and former New Jersey State Assembly member John Wisniewski. So great to have all three of you here. So let's talk about the poll numbers first and foremost, right? Razor thin majority here. And I'm not really surprised by this, Henry, when you look at it because of how Jack Ciattarelli did the last go-round. But what do you make of the numbers?
A really competitive campaign, and something at this point I'm watching that I think viewers need to be aware of is how many Democratic votes Sherrill is saying she has in the mail. And so if these polls and other polls like them are indicative of how close this race is, and you look 4 years ago and it passes the smell test, then you very much could be looking at this sort of red mirage effect of Ciattarelli, and this is what happened 4 years ago to an extent, looking very strong on election night, and then it's a matter of how many of those mail-in ballots come through for Sherrill. So it could be a hold your breath moment. I would honestly be surprised if we had a winner on election night, although it's not outside the realm of possibility. So it is that close, Dan.
It's a very interesting race, John, when you look at this, because you have a number of mayors of towns who are Democrats that have come out and support the Republican Jack Ciattarelli. What does that mean? And New Jersey is a very interesting state because it goes back and forth between Republicans and Democrats.
I think it's important to put it in context. There are some Democratic mayors and council members that have endorsed Jack Ciattarelli, but when you have a state with 550 some municipalities and you've got 8 or 10, it's really a drop in the bucket. And a lot of it talks about local issues, not about statewide policy.
So, you know, Jim, you're out there, and you're on the campaign trail, you're hearing from voters. We look at the poll, we see, of course, housing affordability is a big one. What are you hearing from people on the ground?
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, I think about half of voters who we were polling see taxes, property taxes specifically, and inflation and jobs as the big issue. And what I thought was interesting was only about 11% saw housing affordability. You know, which is something that pops out to me because a lot of what I'm hearing on the ground is about affordable housing, something that, of course, both candidates have talked about. But, you know, a lot of people my age specifically, you know, tell me about the difficulty they have in being able to afford a home, you know, so I just thought that was interesting.
It's amazing how much the noise of the campaign falls by the wayside when people really search themselves for what matters to them. There was a lot of talk about Sherrill's military record at one point. There was a lot of talk after the second debate in particular about Ciattarelli's publishing ties to the pharmaceutical industry. But what are people voting on? Their property taxes, the cost at the grocery store. It'd be very interesting to see what people make of this.
And energy bills, too.
Energy bills, yeah, good one.
And Mikie's really talked about that as part of her campaign.
Yeah, and you know, and we're now looking at what's exactly playing out in terms of who Mikie Sherrill is bringing in. She's bringing in the so-called big guns, right? We have former President Obama campaigning with her this Saturday. We had Pete Buttigieg that was in town. So when you look at this, John, right, and you're seeing her bring in these big power players right now, is it showing that as a typical campaign, or is this, I need the help?
Well, I think every campaign pulls out all the stops at the end, and I'm sure Jack Ciattarelli will be doing the same thing. She's
with
relying
Donald Trump?
Well, you know, he's gotten really close. He said he can't think of a thing that he's done that he disagrees with, so that's going to hurt him in New Jersey politics.
And you guys are going to be covering those events, but this is something very much that's going to have national implications, right? We're looking at this in terms of specifically New Jersey and Virginia and how President Trump may use this race moving forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, President Trump's approval in our polling that you were showing at the top of this segment is about 45%. Considering where he's at nationally, that would beat his national average. This is very much a referendum on President Trump, and very much a referendum because of Ciattarelli's strategy, as John just mentioned, hugging the president so much during this cycle. It's going to bear out in these swing districts in 2026. How close can you get if you're a Mike Lawler in coming up in the primary? If you're one of these other swing Republicans coming up next year in 2026, huge lessons to be learned.
And to revisit the Obama visit planned for the weekend, that's pretty significant because Dan Cassino, our friend and political professor over at FDU, said the last time this happened was with Corzine when former President Bill Clinton came to stump for him, and he ended up losing.
That was the last time a former president
Former president, correct. And that was 2009. So.
Right. So what does that mean?
Well, it means that there aren't that many former Democratic presidents at the point in time when there's a person running for governor.
But what does it say? What does it say that while he is, Jack Ciattarelli is giving the president a grade of an A, he hasn't said, come campaign with me.
No, he hasn't, and for obvious reasons, because the brand that Donald Trump sells is not the typical New Jersey Republican brand, and now Jack's got to do the job of distancing himself from the guy he embraced in the primary.
And New Jersey also hasn't had 2 back-to-back New Jersey governors.
Well, I don't think that's really a big metric. It depends on who the candidates are. And I think right now we have an excellent candidate in Mikie Sherrill, and I think that Jack, while I understand the point he did with endorsing Donald Trump or getting Donald Trump's endorsement, in the primary that mattered. In the general, I think that hurts.
Yeah, Jim, I just want to briefly talk to you. I know we're paying all the attention to the race for governor, but there is a big race in Jersey City as well. A lot of candidates. You spoke to all of them.
All seven.
All seven of the candidates. Wow. One of them being a former governor, Jim McGreevey, right?
Sure.
This is expected to potentially go to a runoff.
Runoff, correct. And, you know, really this, you mentioned 7 candidates. I think that the 3 that are, as John and I were discussing off camera, you know, we have O'Day, who's the Hudson County Commissioner, you know, former Governor Jim McGreevey, and then James Solomon, who's on City Council. You know, and the other candidates certainly have great plans and visions for Jersey City. But, you know, the candidates have told me they see this as a nonpartisan election. They're all Democrats, of course, but that's what they've described to me as a nonpartisan.
And talk to folks, because I think people would be interested to know at home, how would a runoff work? Was it 2, was it 3, or what do you need to get to avoid it? Or
Not quite sure on that, but
Top two.
Top two.
And so, you know, one thing's clear: on election night, nobody will be the presumptive mayor. There'll be 2 people that will be fighting it out, and somebody's going to be looking for the loser's support to get those votes over on their side.
And much like that race, the governor's race, you know, as Henry alluded to earlier, we may be going to bed on Tuesday night, not knowing who.
Yeah, what's very interesting is we have a former governor of New York running for mayor of New York City, a former governor of New Jersey running for mayor of Jersey City.
And neither of them may win.
And neither of them may win. Very true.
I would say neither of them will win.
There you go. You heard it here first. Henry, Jim, and John, thank you both for being, all 3 of you for being here. Henry's sticking around to talk about ballots when we come back. Behind the ballot, the 6 measures that New Yorkers can weigh in on, 5 relating to affordable housing, why these initiatives have local leaders split. We'll be right back.